A very warm welcome to all of you. Myself Rajan Choudhary, Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati, instructor for the NPTEL MOOC course Pavement Construction and Technology, funded by Ministry of Education, Government of India. Today's lecture will be the continuation of our lecture under module 4 and it will be lecture number 11, which will discuss the mixed design of thin bituminous courses used in rural roads. At the very beginning, I would like to acknowledge the use of text, informations, graphs and images sourced from various textbooks, codal standards, journal articles, reports, newsletters and public domain searches. Now, when it comes to rural roads, it is one of the basic infrastructure. We have a very large length of roads falling under this particular category, and dedicated efforts have been made by Government of India, especially in the improvement of rural roads. So, it provides one of the basic infrastructure for achieving the objective of integrated rural development. This is one of the target of our Government of India. And in the hierarchy road system in the country, rural roads mainly comprises our other district roads and village roads. This we discussed in our initial lectures when we discussed about the different categories of roads. So, just to mention under the rural roads specifically, the two categories which are typically considered under the rural roads are other district roads, which serves the rural areas of production, providing them with outlet to market centers, block development, tehsil headquarters or main roads. And the other is your village roads. These are roads connecting villages and group of villages with each other or to the market centers and with the nearest road of a higher category. Now, the typical bituminous surfacings which are used in case of rural roads, the one is open graded premix carpet, which is used with a seal coat, and closely graded premix carpet, also known as a mixed seal surfacing or mixed seal surface, and the third one is surface dressing. This is another one, especially semi-dense bituminous concrete. This has a design very similar, has been discussed there earlier also under different bituminous courses. So, its design is very similar to what we discussed in the previous lecture regarding your bituminous concrete design. So, but these three which are very popular, especially in rural roads, these three, the design approach, they are more like a recipe mix, because the combination, the type of material and the combination of the materials have been arrived on the basis of huge experience which have been gained over these materials at both laboratory and field scale. Now, coming to the first one, the first surfacings, and these are typically thin bituminous surfacings like open graded premix carpet. It says it consists of laying a 20 mm. So, less than 1 inch bituminous mix comprising of small aggregates premixed with a. So, the word open graded, that means the gradation is a bit open one and it is a premixed one to serve as a wearing course for low volume roads. Now, what is the problem? As the term itself says, it is an open gradation. So, the chances are that it may be permeable to rainwater. So, that is why, and the open gradation, because typically limited sizes of aggregates or sizes, uniform sizes of aggregates are used. So, therefore, an application of a coat, specifically seal coat, the term is seal coat, it comprises of different types of seal coats, is quite important so as to seal the surface of open graded premix carpet, so that there is no intrusion of water is there and it becomes impermeable. So, various our codal specifications discusses about these thin bituminous coursings. We have the information in our specifications for roads and bridge works, which is MORTH specifications. We have specifications IRC 14, which is recommended practice for open graded premix carpet. We have this orange book. Similar to the orange book, we have this red book, which is the specifications for rural roads, Ministry of Rural Development, MORD specifications is there. Now, coming into the composition of the open graded premix carpet, it is typically consists of a blend of two uniform sizes of aggregates. The first one is having a nominal size of 13.2 mm, that is the one which is passing through 22.4 and retained on 11.2. And second size is predominantly a size which is having an NMS of 11.2, which passes through 13.2 and gets retained on 5.6 mmC. Now, the quality of these aggregates needs to be ensured, and we need to look into the physical characteristics, which, as you can see here, these are the requirements which have been taken from MORD specifications also, as well as from the IRC premix carpet specifications along with the MORTS specifications. So, there are requirement for particle shape also, aggregate impact value also, durability also, and even stripping also. In addition to this particular one, there is a specific requirement. Otherwise, in most of the cases, we might have seen that the water absorption requirement is up to 2%, but here it says that the water absorption has to be, for these aggregates, has to be less than 1%. And again, if we are using any crushed gravel, then whatever materials which are retained over 4.75 mm sheave, 90% of it by weight should have at least 2 fractured faces. So, this is now why I call them as a recipe mix, because the quantity of aggregate and the quantity of binder which have been arrived from a lot of experience with these mixes are directly given. You do not have to work out any design and combination here. The recommended values are already provided based on the experience with different kind of aggregates which have been done throughout the country at laboratory and field scale. So, it says when we are using, what is the quantity of aggregate which is required for premix carpet? For the first size, which is the one having 13.2 NMS passing 22.4 and retain, should be 0.18 meter cube for a area of 10 meter square when it has to be premix carpeted. And second size, which is the one which is passing 13.2 and retain on 5.6, should be a quantity of 0.09 meter cube has to be sprayed laid in 10 meter square of area. So, total 0.27 meter cube of the aggregate has to be put in an area of 10 meter square. Now, this is for aggregate part. What to be what about binder? Binder, it says for open graded premix carpet, you can go with the paving grade binder as per IS 73. You can go for a modified binder also as per IRC SP 53. Most of the times we go with the conventional paving grade binders recommended by IS 73, and the grade has to be depending upon the region in which the maximum air pavement temperature which can be there in a particular region. We will look into the grade of the binder to be used, and the quantity which is required for the binder for these two combinations of aggregates, here it has been mentioned. It says that for the 0.18 meter cube of 13.2 NMS, we require around 9.4 kg, and for 0.09 of the one which is having 11.2 NMS, we require 15.2 kg. So, around 14.7 kg will be required in that 10 meter square of area. So, this is one thing, and specifically the other requirement comes when we are using, say, emulsions in this particular one. If we are preparing these open graded premix carpet with emulsions, then the requirements are there, and for using the emulsions, one we call it as cold mix open graded premix carpet. Otherwise, the general term is open graded premix carpet, where we are going with paving grade binder or modified binder. When we produce it using emulsions and the thickness remains same, 20 mm cold mix open graded premix carpet, and the emulsion which is preferred is a cationic emulsion of medium setting grade and which has to follow the IS 8887 specifications. Important part is, as I mentioned, this is an open graded mix. So, it is chances of there that the mix is permeable to water. So, here in this particular case, a seed coat has to be immediately applied after the construction of OGFC, whereas in case of these cold mixed open graded premix carpet, as you are using an emulsion, you have to give a time at least of 4 to 6 hours before you are going to put a seal coat over it. And again it is mentioned here, if you are using a cationic bitumen emulsion, this is the quantity of aggregate which is the same which we have done in case of paving grade binder, but the cationic bitumen emulsion quantity is around 20 to 23 kg in the 10 meter square of area. So that's why it is a sort of recipe mix where the how much aggregate quantity you have to put up in a given area, how much quantity of binder is to be put up is already recommended by the specifications. Now when we are dealing with this open graded premix carpet, the seal coat is very important. What is seal coat and what it comprises of? So it is specifically, it is a material which is applied for sealing the voids of a bituminous surfacing, and there are, as per MORD specifications for rural roads, there are 3 type of seal coats which are recommended. What is they are type A, type B and type C seal coats are there. The first one is type A, it's a liquid seal coat where we apply a bituminous binder followed by a cover of stone chips. So we will apply on the top of the premix carpet, we will apply a bituminous binder, on the top of it we will put the stone chips. The other 2 are a sort of premixed one. So the type B, and it varies in the sizes of the aggregates which we are using. The premix seal coat comprising of a thin application of fine aggregate premixed with bituminous binder. So here we are going to premix it, and then we are going to apply the this seal coat over the open graded premix surfacing. Type C also premix seal coat comprising of a application of 6.7 mm size stone chips premixed with the bituminous. So here the sizes are bit bigger compared to what we have in the type B seal coat. Now the requirements of the aggregates for the seal coats are here given. Again some specific requirements are mentioned here. Type A stone chips, sand or grit can be used, and here also stone chips, because here we make the application once the bituminous binder is applied. Important part is the these chips which are to be applied over bituminous binder should have a water absorption less than 1%. Here also in this case, when this we are using this bigger sizes one, the water absorption should be less than 1%. Now what the fraction we are using? Where we are, once binder is applied and then you are putting those chips over it, it says that it is a size which is referred as 6.7 mm size. It is 100% passing through 11.2 and retained on 2.36 mm. So everything is coarse aggregate which is retained over 2. And it says you need to use this a quantity of seal coat, the stone chips, as 0.09 cubic meter per 10 square meter of area. So this is the requirement of your seal coat for in terms of the stone chips. Second, it says when we are going for the type B seal coat, which is a premix seal coat, it says aggregate pass through 2.36 mm, it's a finer one, and retained on 180 micron sieve size. And here again the requirement in terms of how much quantity of aggregate per 10 square meter of area is given. Now when this type C seal coat, where the sizes again are referred as same to what was there, but it is a premixed one. In the type A, it is not a premixed one, it is laid after the bituminous binder is laid. So here it is a 6.7 mm size, 100% passing 9.5 mm, and the retain on 2.36, it is a bit smaller compared to what you have in case of type A. And again it says that it should cover around, it should be of around a volume of 0.09 cubic meter per 10 square meter of area. And we want these stone chips to be free from of dust, disintegrated stones, flakion elongated particles, or organic and deleterious material. The general requirements are there for these seal coat materials also. Now what binder is to be used? Because there is an application of binder and then stone chips in type A, and then in the other 2 cases these are premixed one. It says that a viscosity grade binder can be used as per IS 73 specifications, or we can use a cationic bitumen emulsion of medium setting grade also here. And here in case of these cationic emulsions, IS 18887 specifications in terms of their quality has to be ensured. Now what are the requirements, typical requirements in terms of the quantity in that 10 meter square area? It says that per 10 meter square area. If you are going with liquid seal coat and you are making a paving grade binder application, the binder should be 9.8 kg. When I am going for the one where the premix seal coat is there, then I will go for an application of 6.8 kg in 10 meter square area, and the one which is again with a bit slightly higher sizes, it says 4.5 by weight of the total mixture. Here this is important part, this is by weight of total mixture, here it is mentioning. And when it is coming to bitumen emulsions, you can see in the first case the bitumen emulsion, cationic bitumen emulsion medium setting grade, which is the most preferred one. It has given the quantity of bitumen emulsion for the type A, type B and the type C. So when we do with the premix carpet, open graded premix carpet, it is important to go for an application for a seal coat also, so as to seal the surface specifically for any intrusion of water. Now the other one, here what we are doing, an open graded mix is laid and then it is sealed with the help of seal coat. There is other way around, is there is one more mix combination which is given and which is called as closed graded premix carpet or mixed seal surfacing. So these are synonymous, many a times we refer it as MSS or it is a closed graded premix carpet. Now in this particular one, again this is a sort of recipe mix for a typical thickness of 20 mm. We do this particular construction and it is used as a wearing course, very popular in low volume roads and or rural roads. And here again two aggregate gradations are recommended, type A and type B. Two gradations are recommended, and there is a codal specification also, IRC SP 78 2008, which is a specifications for mixed seal surfacing or closed graded premix surfacing. Now here you can see this is type A, type B. From this particular one, you can very well realize that the type A is bit more finer compared to your type A. You can see for 2.8 mmC, here 14 to 38% is passing compared to this 5 to 25%. So even both are considered as a closed graded premix carpet or comes under MSS. The type A is preferred for high rainfall regions compared to the type B, which is normally used when the rainfall is about 150 centimeter per year as per the recommendations of MORD and IRC SP 78. Now in this case again this we are getting that what the amount of what type of gradation is to be used. In addition to that particular one, what are the requirements which is to be there for the binder. It says viscosity grading paving binder or modified binder can be used with this closed graded premix carpet or mixed seal surfacing. And here another important, the total quantity of aggregates used for type A or type B mixed surfacing shall be 0.27 cubic meter per 10 square meter. Again it is a recipe mix, it again gives you. So you can work out how much length and how much width you are going to lay out. Like typically for rural roads you have around an intermediate line width of 5.5 meters. So you can work out, and the thickness is 20 mm. So what is the width, what is the length, and the thickness is already 20 mm. So you can work out the volume, and it says for a 10 square meter of area this much is to be used, whether type A is aggregate is using or type B aggregate gradation you are using. And the quantity of binder which is required shall be 22 and 19 kg per 10 meter square area for type A and B surfacings, because as we have seen the type A is bit more finer compared to the type B. So you are requiring to cover those, you will have more surface area, fines are more, so you will require more binder to properly coat those aggregates. So and as the grade of the binder can be selected on the basis of this table which has been given by MORD specifications for rural roads, that for what regions you can select for VG10 binder, what regions you can select for VG20 binder, for what regions you can select VG30 binder. So depending upon the maximum daily air temperature, you can work out this particular grade of binder for this close graded premix carpet. Now the other popular thin bituminous surfacing which is used for rural roads is surface dressing, and it has been used in different countries from many years, from 1920s as a wearing course, specifically for low to medium traffics. It has been used in urban sections also, and it provides again a water resistant paved surface suitable for vehicle movement. This particular course can be laid in two courses or multiple courses. You can go for one coat surface dressing also, and you can go for two coat surface dressing. In each application coat, you first go for an application of a bituminous binder. So, each coat will comprise an application of a bituminous binder, followed by an application of a stone chips. So, when you are going for the first coat, you need to first previously prepared base. That base has to be prepared, whatever the granular base over which this bituminous surfacing is to be done. Then first that has to be prepared, any loose materials has to be removed, it has to be brought to the grade, any depressions have to be rectified, because these bituminous surfacings are very small in thickness. So, they cannot fill up your depressions. So, you have to correct your underlying courses for any profile related issues first before you come up with these thin bituminous courses. So, the surface is prepared, the granular surface is prepared, and you are going to put, it can be done over an existing bituminous surfaces also, but in a new construction when you are doing over a granular course, so the base is to be prepared, the binder is to be sprayed over it, followed by an application of stone chips, and if we do it in two coats, then the same has to be repeated. So, surface dressings in many countries is also known as by the name of chip seals, because what we apply on the top, this is a pic how it looks from the top, the stone chips, and if the chips are uncoated one, it looks in this particular manner. You may feel that there is less of binder which is available. Why only stones are visible? Because our normal conception is that we want to see a black surface with the bitumen. So, this may be one concern when uncoated chips are used. In this particular surface dressing, there is a provision for using the pre-coated chips also. So, we have IRC 110 2005 which is there for standard specifications and code of practice for design and construction of surface dressing, along with the information which is there in ministry MORT specifications also, as well as MORD specifications. Now, coming to the composition, again a binder requirement will be there and the stone chips requirement will be there. So, what binder is preferred? Again a paving grade binder as the most one, and the commonly used grade is a VG10 grade here in most of the applications, but it has to be decided on the basis of the climatic conditions, highest daily mean air temperature, on the basis of which you can work out which grade is to be applied. Now, and if we are working it out with an immersion, it is to be a rapid setting cationic immersion. Again, it has to be ensured with IS 8887 specifications. This is the table which gives the information of selection of paving grade binder as per the highest daily mean air temperature. And so, first on the prepared base, we are going to make the application of the binder. The binder application is to be done. So, a binder distribution tanker is to be there, which has to spray the defined quantity of binder over that particular length and area. So, if we are going with whirling spray jets, this is the temperature. An example is given, this is the temperature which is to be there which VG10 binder, and this is the temperature. So, this is depending how the binder is getting distributed or put over the surface with these binder distributor tanks. Now, the aggregates or the stone chips which are to be used need to be ensured their physical characteristics. These are the requirements which are given. This is as per IRC 110 2005, which states for aggregate impact value, abrasion value, combined fluffiness elongation index, stripping value also, and polished stone value. As when they are used as a wearing course, they are recommended to have a polished stone value of at least minimum 60, which in some of the cases we have seen in desk graded mixes is mentioned as 55. Here the requirement is 60 in the case of surface dressing to offer good skid resistance, and the water absorption should be of this aggregate should be less than 1%. Now, the gradation of the stone chips has been mentioned here, and it says we can use stone chips with 4 different nominal maximum aggregate sizes. It says the one which are recommended as per RC 110, so it says that 19 mm and MORD 19 mm, the one which is 13 mm, 10 mm, all with and 6 mm, and you can see the gradation is given. Along with it, since this will be a uniformly graded material, it mentions that minimum 65% of material should be passing 19 mm and retain point 13.2. Specifically, this is for the first one with 19 nms, then it is for 13.2 and 9.5. It is for this particular range. When it is 9.5 and 6.3, it is for this particular range, and 6.3 and retain on 3.35. So this is for this particular. So predominantly a single size aggregates we are referring by this particular one, and as I mentioned, if the chips are uncoated, normally it gives a feeling that the binder is not there, this surface may not perform good, because this is our normal conception. The surface should shine in black color, so this is our black gold, so it should be there. So in that case, many a times we go for pre-coating of the stone chips, and the percentage which is normally used for pre-coating is 0.75 to 1% by weight of the stone chips. But when we are doing this pre-coating, we can use the paving grade binder for doing this pre-coating. We have to cure them for a period of around 1 week to ensure that they become non-stick, because we have to spread these stone chips over this binder. So this pre-coating has to be done at least a week before time when we are going for actual application of a surface dressing. So, and which NMS has to be selected out of this 1913? It normally depends upon the underlying surface category. So it says that if you have surfaces, very hard surface, existing a bituminous surface may be there, hard surface, normal surface, a soft surface, because these chips can get penetrated into the existing surface. So, and depending upon the how much amount of traffic which is coming up. So it says approximate number of commercial vehicles with a laden weight greater than 3 tons currently carried per day in the lane under consideration. So the ranges are given 200 to 1000, 2200, less than 20. So you can see for very hard surfaces you can go with a smaller NMS. For very soft surfaces you need to go for higher NMS sizes. And very hard, what type of surfaces are referred as very hard? See, surfaces such as concrete or very lean bituminous structures with stony surfaces are considered as very hard surfaces. Normal surfaces into which chippings can penetrate mildly under medium heavy traffic. Very soft surfaces which are already rich in the bitumen in the underlying surfaces. So depending upon what type of existing surfaces we are using, we will go for the selection of the NMS considering the amount of traffic which is also given. So this is what is given as per our MORD requirement. So we can select the NMS of the stone chips depending upon the category of the existing surface. And then once that category is finalized, stone chips is finalized, then how much quantity of binder is required. So since there will be 2 categories of binder, an emulsion which is there and a paving grade binder, for both of this particular one the requirement is mentioned here. If you are using an NMS of 19.2, the bitumen which is kg per meter square, it has mentioned that bitumen will be 1.2, emulsions it will be 1.8, and this is for different NMS it is given. When you you can see when it goes for 0.75, emulsions 1.8, 1.5, 1.3 and 1.1. Now coated aggregates, specifically when I am using pre-coated chips, then in that particular case it will be slightly reduced. So here this is the binder which gets reduced, and aggregates, the quantity of aggregates, because here it is given in binder per meter square. So here also the aggregates volume per meter square is given, where there we were referring for 10 meter square area, here it is per meter square. So you can see for the different NMS how much amount of stone chips you are requiring. So for NMS 19, 13, 10 and 6, all these required quantities of your the stone chips as well as the required quantity of your bitumen or emulsion as per your selection is given here. Now, as I mentioned, when we are doing this construction in 2 coats, so if I am using say emulsion, so what I will do, the total quantity of emulsion which will be required for these 2 coats, preferably it is done that we will add these 2 for this particular one. Emulsion quantity is usually added and 40 to 45% is applied in the first coat and the next one is applied. So that we want the upper one to become more impermeable in that case. So this is what is gained by the experience, and specifically, so this is bitumen for coated excludes the quantity of bitumen required for coating. Yes, this is what is mentioned here. Then when we are using pre-coated chips, we will reduce the quantity of binder which has to be there, because here the important part is, as we discussed in previous lectures when we were discussing the characteristics of different mixes, the aggregates will get embedded in this layer of bitumen, and so it gets nicely holded with the bitumen, it provides a good texture on the surface, and because of the binder it seals the existing surface for any permeation of water. So these are thin bituminous courses which are widely used in the construction of rural roads. Thank you so much.